You know, these dialogues have been an eye-opener as they've shown us that partnerships between policymakers, manufacturers of ICT, and managers of our technology systems have a potential of fast-tracking our developmental goals. This Innovation Africa Summit is significant because it provides impetus to the need for us to intensify our efforts in finding the best ideas, solutions, and models to improve the areas of education, ICT, science, research, and development, areas which are all essential to the advancement of our continent. Our success in the aforementioned areas will be a pillar upon which to cement our strategies for uprooting underdevelopment, poverty, joblessness, and lack of skills. We always talk about those major challenges of our lifetime. This important gathering brings us together as government representatives from different African countries, the private sector, and other key stakeholders, so as to find ways at collaborating to improve education and ICT. But of course, where I come from, also to ensure that as many people as possible acquire critical skills which will enable them to participate in the growth of our economy, which is really critical for Africa to be sustainable, for Africa to be at peace, and for Africa to realize its dream of being democratic and to strengthen the culture of human rights. You all know where we come from as a continent. I would like to acknowledge the recent elections of Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma as the new chair of the African Union Commission, and thank all my colleagues who are here for the support that she received from all countries. I'm confident that a leader with her experience will result in significantly greater collaboration across the continent. I know already that she has signed an agreement between the Ministry of Science and Technology in a new capacity, so that even right at the African Union, she will pursue some of these ideas that we're talking about. Within that, ICT is also included. This Innovation Africa Summit, again, is significant because it provides impetus to the need for us to intensify our efforts in finding the best ideas, solutions, and improve, abilities and competences in the area of critical skills that we need, like in areas, engineering and so on. In my previous capacity, I tended to limit myself to the use of ICT in education. But moving over to the development of economy, it's almost like it has become clear that this could help to create, ICT could help us to influence all our policies to feed into one potter, so that there's a national psyche which we use as a point of leverage to achieve our objectives. There's just one area I want to emphasize a bit, that, 2 decades ago, Africa was confronted by the multiple challenges of poverty, poor infrastructure, a legacy of colonial injustices, slow economic growth, and civil wars, including the genocides. Over the last 20 or so years, a remarkable shift has happened. Wars have come to an end, infrastructure has been prioritized, democratic governments have taken office and are committed to improving the lives of the people. And unprecedented growth rates are taking place across the continent. Africa is seen as the new destination for economic growth and holds a myriad of opportunities. Equally, there has been a significant change or changes in education and the information and communication technology sector. Minister Dina Pule, in her powerful and thought-provoking address yesterday, spoke about the increase in the number of cell phone users and how shifts in technology have enabled us to improve the lives of our people. Not being limited by landline telephone technology has enabled millions more to affordably get connected to the world. That simple shift, for example, has seen a banking revolution taking place in countries like Kenya, where money can now be easily transferred through cell phone technologies to families across the country or even pay for basic services. That technology is now being adopted in other countries, including South Africa. The link between ICT and the finance sector, therefore, has benefits that enable people to gain access to opportunities that would have been previously denied to them. The recent awarding of the Square Kilometre Array to Africa is an important recognition of, for our continent and will bring significant technologies with that investment. Ladies and gentlemen, the remarkable achievements that have taken place across our continent over the past 2 decades are not an accident. They are the results of leaders with vision and foresight who brokered peace, established the NEPAD initiative to give priority to infrastructure, economic integration, and a number of social and cultural objectives established by the African Union, and prioritize collaboration and greater levels of integration amongst African countries. And I'm mentioning this, colleagues, because it really sends a clear message that we are here because we do believe we have already made strides in coming out of the dark, of being a dark continent. So the use of ICT, we see that as a second ladder that can help all of us to move even faster in achieving all our ideals. From the example of that was the picture that was painted, Mr. Grant, just this morning, it's clear that there are pockets of excellence even in this country. What he's describing has been witnessed by all of us. If the Minister of Basic Education was here, she would have shown the slides in terms of results, outcomes, and one of the examples that we see we have been given here, a testimony to a fact that with the use of ICT, much more can be achieved. Broadly, in the ICT sector, we have committed ourselves to be in the forefront of the information revolution through the Africa Connect goals adopted by the African Union heads of states in 2011. At the moment, our information is that in 2011, only 5.7% of the population of Africa had access to the internet. We could be disheartened by that figure, or we could see that addressing that challenge as an opportunity for stimulating development, including economic growth, bringing new innovations, ICT, and so on. Minister Pule yesterday, the Minister of Technology, emphasized that the major issue we face revolves around equity. Equity in opportunity, equity in capacity building, socio-economic equity, human equity, gender equity, and the like. And I think it's important to understand that surely those of you who are familiar and who follow the trends of development in this country, you will know that South Africa is rated as one of the most unequal society in the world. And of course, you know, that is our premise. Then we'll begin to understand the kind of investments that are needed. We need to normalize the society, especially when we formulate policies for education. We cannot afford in this century to have elitist kids and those who are really getting the kind of education which cannot prepare them for excellence, for leadership, and so on. Especially if you look at our society, you find that the majority of young people, they grow up under extremely difficult conditions. Like, there are still children who are in informal settlements. That is not a small number, who are growing up in shacks. We still have a high number of children who grow up in rural areas. You know, with my colleagues from my department here, we usually go to those kinds of places where we get testimony that if it's raining, children don't go to school because the bridge which was built, I don't know how many years ago, is a high risk for them. We have seen on our national television some children having to swim through the river when going to school. So as we then zoom in with the use of ICT, it's my plea that it's important to be conscious of those who are outside the fold as well, so that our gains, I know we don't claim easy gains, but we come up with a concerted effort within each and every province in terms of saying there are young people who are growing up under normal family circumstances where the basics are in place. A shelter, electricity, running water, schools where there's sanitation. But also to say, what then do we have to do? Do we have to put more resources in areas, because the child's day is today, where children are still learning under extremely difficult circumstances, but where we're saying we cannot delay their learning because they don't yet have a proper school and so on. But how do we use ICT to then enrich their classroom situation? And of course, you know, the leadership of this country, from the president, Minister of Basic Education, MECs, as Mr. Grant was saying, we have said teacher leadership and discipline is key. Of course, we have been saying availability of textbooks, and then through ICT influence, we're saying availability of tablets could solve some of the problems that we're talking about. With the previous dialogue, we had an example from Ireland of, you know, it's like a luggage bag which you can fit in an aeroplane cabin, where you can get a kit which will help children to learn wherever they are, whether in rural areas or under the tree or wherever. So those are some of the things that we are looking for, because we want to fast-track access to education for all children, irrespective of the circumstances they find themselves in. We know that 70% of employees in the developed world are knowledge workers in one form or another. As we have done in other areas, it is within the bounds of possibility for Africa to do the same by getting all the basics rights. Even in our primary and secondary industries, we see a strong link to knowledge and ICTs. For example, deep-level mining in South Africa is increasingly looking at new technologies and solutions to extend the life of mines and return them to profitability. ICT is playing an increasingly important role in the agricultural sector, and even for rural farmers, ICT has been used to enable them to get better prices for their products. Minister Pule yesterday mentioned the important role that ICTs and technology can play in addressing also social problems, indeed in critical areas such as water provision and treatment of wastewater, we are seeing innovative ways to use ICTs and technology to address the challenges faced in that sector. And again, taking it back to education, we do believe our leaders in education have to have a deeper understanding of the desired outcome. We have statistics somewhere where we hear about the high number of unemployed graduates, out of school young people. Ford Foundation study research showed that millions of young people are neither at school nor at work. So if we have an understanding of the application of ICT, not only just as a didactic tool in a classroom situation, but also having a vision of the ultimate objective, servicing specific sectors like water, technology, green economy, and so on. So our education policies as well should be aligned towards that, because we understand that ICT alone cannot deliver the desired objectives, but creation of systems to manage our technologies and alignment of policies towards desired outcomes to feed specific sectors is even more critical. So we have to, through these processes, go back to our national responsibilities and align all the policies using ICT to achieve broader country objectives. The ability to generate access and distribute knowledge has therefore become a key determinant for a higher developmental trajectory for any nation, for both economic and social goals. I like referring to the experiences of South Korea, whose GDP per capita in 1960 was equal to that of Nigeria, Ghana, and Cameroon. However, within 30 years, South Korea has managed to propel itself to be among the top 8 richest economies in the world. While other factors have supported their growth, their setting up a knowledge-based economy has been acknowledged as a contributing success factor. Program Director, a knowledge-based society allows us to adapt to changing conditions and design solutions that will enhance the competitiveness and growth potential of developing economies. Africa still has some progress to make in that area. The World Bank Knowledge Economy Index, which focuses on economic and institutional regime, educated and skilled people, innovation systems, and information communication technologies, shows that Africa does not have a country in the top 100. That's our challenge. Again, we could be concerned about that rating, or the other route is to really take on the challenge to see how raising our knowledge economy status and putting in the necessary infrastructure to support the knowledge economy can contribute to further economic growth. I just want to quickly make reference to South Africa's investment in ICT infrastructure. We have said this many times, but I think time and again we have to refer to it, and Mr. Grant touched a bit about some of the investment. It's important because in order to get ICT investment to deliver meaningfully to education, it is necessary that it be conceptualized holistically. That is to say, from the content creator to the learner's desktop or mobile. Above everything, we have to use centers of higher learning as hubs of technology transfer. Investment in infrastructure is therefore as crucial as investing in the end-user devices that will be used to deliver the content. The South African government has invested significantly in the ICT infrastructure, thus laying the foundation for investment in the second aspect of ICT support learning, that is investment in investment such as Centec, broadband, Infraco, the Easy and Works projects, and the Square Kilometer Array project, as I've said. All these lines of communication will help us not only to fast-track possibilities of access to learning material, but also for the transportation of goods, and thus bringing countries closer to each other. I just want to quickly mention the value of the new growth path, which we often talk about in this context. It identifies a number of drivers and sectors that need to be supported in order to create the 5 million new jobs that the South Africa requires by 2020. Aligned to the new growth path is the Industrial Policy Action Plan, which goes into detail on the sectors that require support in order to further our goals of further industrialization of our economy. And again, as I've said, that if in our classrooms there is an understanding of the importance of alignment with these national goals, the content that could be distributed through ICT should help young people to make the right choices quite early. Sometimes in education, people talk about career guidance quite late when people maybe are in their secondary schools and so on. But if learning was aligned from the beginning, people will be assisted to begin to play with the right toys for a purpose, as we have mentioned some of the areas that are critical for us to get where we are. Of course, to address the blockages to the growth of the ICT sector, the new growth path states that we should firstly have stronger programs, institutions, and systems to diffuse new technology to smaller businesses. Secondly, have greater support for research and development and innovations. Thirdly, continuously reduce the cost and improve access to broadband. And the cost factor is main stumbling block, especially in developing countries. The irony is that sometimes it's easier in the first world countries, which are supposed to be expensive to get connected, than it is in our countries where connectivity is not a luxury, but is needed to ensure survival of all citizens, as telecoms sometimes are lacking behind. The new growth path also says that to be more effective in the knowledge economy, we need to have targets to increase research and development. And I'm sure my colleagues from higher education will help a lot about the set targets in one of the dialogues which they will run here. And they will be available where ministers will be interacting with the private sector to support with some of the specifics. Before I close, I need to just mention one more aspect which I think is it will be important. Mr. Grant, I think, touched upon this, but I still need to emphasize it. It was mentioned also yesterday, mainly because I'm in one of the anchor universities that are helping us with this aspect. South Africa's strategy with regard to skills development is portrayed in the National E-Skills Plans of Action, or which has as its purpose e-skilling the nation for equitable prosperity and global competitiveness. This plan's objectives are to build a committed national approach for e-skills priorities through a coordinated collaboration process with key stakeholders such as the university sector. This plan of action supports the establishment of e-skills knowledge production hubs located in our universities and is in line with the vision of how to better utilize ICT to support not only knowledge for its own sake, but also economic growth. These universities have grasped the opportunity to assist the government in developing a broad curriculum, conduct research, and develop policy to better position the nation in the information society and knowledge economies. These hubs also aim to assist the National E-Skills Institute to decrease the massive e-skills deficit. And I'm really happy that the Minister of Communication realized and acknowledged the need to bring her initiatives to closer to what Innovation AfricanBrains is doing, so that we coordinate our efforts. The challenge is to find ways to deliver e-skills to communities so that it has a visible impact on the skills levels of South Africans within the context of a developmental state. Through the establishment of these hubs, collaboration across business, government, education, civil society, including labor, can take place. It can also provide spaces where the best and brightest in the world can find a home for innovation, research, and policy development. In conclusion, improving Africa's information and communication technology will not only improve our productive industrial capacity, but also it can provide a stimulus for growth in other sectors and opportunities across the economy. South Africa, across the policy spectrum, in South Africa, we have recognized the key role of ICT education and technology. These issues are not pigeonholed into one line function department, but cut across all departments and are present in policies in the departments that cover education, the economy, infrastructure, technology, and communication, amongst others. Basically, there is a national psyche that within our clusters, all our policies should be directed towards a common goal, especially through the use of ICT. We have learned hard lessons that fragmented approaches to service delivery do not give us the outcomes we desire. And I think ICT is a good vehicle to help us or compel us to talk to each other as we develop our policies, as we implement. The school is not in an island. The school is related to water issues, energy issues that are needed in the labs of those schools, but of course the economic status of the community. I'm looking forward to enriching deliberations that will assist us to take our continent forward and better understand how we can utilize ICT to address some of our massive social, educational, and economic challenges. And colleagues, I must say, I'm one of those who have learned a lot through roundtables, where there's a close interaction between people with specific interests and the producers of these ICT technologies. I find that extremely beneficial. We're looking forward to those sessions, and we hope all our officials will be on standby to assist us with the challenges they face as they formulate policies or implement policies at a community level. I thank you.